your mind on Nabonidus, because he may be like an Akhenaten type character, the Egyptian pharaoh that may have been a monotheist and may have tried to change Egypt's religion. Another similar story, right, where you have the autocratic ruler opposed by a powerful priesthood. But after Akhenaten died, things returned back to normal, and they kind of were carving his face off of all of the old things, trying to forget he ever lived. Nabonidus may have been one of these guys, too, that wanted to change the religion. His mother was supposedly a priestess of a religion devoted to a god named Sin, a moon god. And so Nabonidus, right before this time period, gives the ultimate middle finger to the priesthood of Marduk by leaving Babylon and going to some Arabian oasis. Now, historians in modern times have found all sorts of really good, logical, patriotic reasons why the king might do that. In past times, it was much more portrayed like this guy is a mystic. Either a mystic or an old man or a combination of the two, and he just wants to get away from his unworthy people, and he appreciates it more in these Arabian oases. It's probably what modern historians think. He's probably there doing important work for the country, but he's missing important work at the same time. The Babylonians required their king to be there once a year for a New Year's festival. It was important. He had to physically grasp the hand of the god in front of the population once a year to ensure success and good things and all these kinds of deals, and he stayed away for like a decade. The Babylonian records will say every year the king was not here for the ceremony or what have you, and they're getting pissed that he's putting more money into creating more of these temples for the other religion, denying some money that the people of Marduk expect, and you can just see it boiling over, right? And then the king's not even there. His son Belshazzar is ruling as a regent, and he's not popular either. So the king is part of it. But Babylon is going through tough economic times too, and that's putting the squeeze on people. They're having problems with disease, and that's causing unrest. Archaeologist Dr. Joan Oates describes, the down and dirty parts of day-to-day suffering. And let's remember something: Babylon's banking system and financial system was developed enough so that they had great banking houses that were very powerful and lived on long after this period. And that's just another one of those dynamics that makes us think about modern times. These are powerful interests that have, some authority in the state. What happens when things seem to be falling apart and people are losing money and times are bad and you start getting Persian propaganda about this king who sounds like things are going his way, which, remember, during this time period might have caused a lot of people to figure the gods are smiling on that guy. And our king's not even showing up to shake the god's hand every New Year's, right? Here's the way Dr. Joan Oates describes the situation in Babylon. Considering also, remember that this king looks like a guy who's trying to change religious traditions, trying to change a bunch of other things. And Dr. Oates writes, clearly, Nabonidus' religious and administrative reform to building programs of his predecessors had proved to on the country's resources. Large numbers of economic texts reveal severe inflation, a situation now made worse by the spread of plague. Between 560 BCE and 550 BCE, prices rose by up to 50%, and from 560 to 485 BCE, the total increase amounted to some 200%. Not just that, but again, take this with a grain of salt, it's argued about, but there are people inside Babylon who might be considered, shall we say, vulnerable to propaganda that created dissent. There are a lot of people in Babylon who are there because they were forcibly taken once upon a time from where they came from. And some of the propaganda afterwards, certainly the post-propaganda, but maybe some of the pre-propaganda too from Cyrus, told these people that if the Persians were to take over, they'd get to go home. Start with the deportees from Judah, Jewish people today. There are still, I'm sure still, with all the troubles, Jews in that part of the world today that are descendants of people who were forcibly removed after the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem. What if Cyrus was telling those people, if I get in power, you can go home? What if he was telling all the other deportees the same thing? Now, when historians refer to Cyrus and the Persians' propaganda, the first idea that comes to mind is like negative propaganda, like the Nazi stuff designed to lie to people and get you to believe things that aren't true. But you could make a case that since we know that Cyrus and the Persians will eventually actually do what they're saying here, right? That they will, for example, allow the Jews to go back to Judah and reestablish their religion, and even eventually, pay for some of the rebuilding of the Second Temple. What will be the Second Temple with royal funds? When you know that they're actually going to do that, maybe you could say that this propaganda is a lot more like dropping leaflets over enemy military lines that say something like, surrender to us, we don't hurt prisoners, and we'll give you a hot meal and a few bucks in your pocket and some cigarettes, what they've done in the old days. Maybe this is like telling the people inside Babylon, do not fear, I may be coming, but I'm going to send you home. Now, real experts on this, like Pierre Briand, caution us against thinking about this the way that I just described to you. This is a conscious policy of toleration. He says the way the marketing really is a lot more like Cyrus's Assyrian and Babylonian predecessors, where he's essentially promising continuity. And because continuity means allowing these people to do things the way that they're accustomed to do it, it seems like tolerance. He points out that it's normal for conquerors in this region, even before this time period, to come in and promise to restore everything that's wrong. The gods are upset, I will fix that. The economy is bad, I will fix that. You are kept away from your home and your gods are just, I will fix that. The restorer and recreator of order. So whatever you want to call this, in 539, Cyrus and the Babylonian army meet. And in a battle where there seems to have been a really maybe nasty massacre at the end, the Babylonian army is defeated. The rest of the troops sort of run back to the very formidable defenses of the city. And within 2 days, somehow, the gates of the city are opened and Cyrus's general is marching through the streets in triumph and Babylon falls. And Nabonidus flees, and he's eventually captured and supposedly treated well by Cyrus, just like all the other kings were. Herodotus, of course, has to give us a stratagem story of how it happened. This time it involves, waiting until they can get the river down that flows through the city to a certain length, to a point where the troops can go through the marshes or what have you, and capture the city. And I think he's one of the ones that say that the city didn't even know it was being captured because there was some revelry going on attached to a religious cult, and the city's so big anyway. Modern excavations with the city size over 2,000 acres and wall circumference at about 11 miles. So it's possible that in one part of the city they were partying up and the Persians got in. The natural thing to do would be to throw out a story like that and blame it on typical, Greek stereotypes and whatnot. But it should be pointed out, one, that oftentimes in these ancient religions there was an awful lot of decadent or fun, depends on your view, I guess, stuff that was part of, the religious rites. And you'll see this in Greece and Rome and a ton of other religions the world over, especially in the ancient period. And these people are immensely religious. The Babylonians especially. It's a holy city of Mesopotamia, right? These are very religious people. So imagine people with the commitment of like a Taliban, right? The seriousness with which they take this, and the strident militancy and all that. But you might be commanded to party. It's a party for God, and if you're not there, the ramifications could be huge, right? I'm inclined to think that it's a Greek stereotype, of course, but there's a part of me that wants to believe it's the latter. Now, the one thing this conquest, if that's even the right word, Babylon is known for, is the fact that it's generally considered to be bloodless. Forget that battle we talked about with the nasty potential massacre at the end. When the city of Babylon is taken, it's taken essentially voluntarily. I mean, it's like the Babylonians open up the door and Cyrus's general comes in. And 17 or so days later, Cyrus himself comes in. We're told that the population, gets in front of his chariot and lays down palm fronds and stuff, which some historians in the old days used to be sure was a sign of how much people wanted in there. More modern day historians point out that that's generally how you get treated when you come into a city that's trying to show that they're no threat at all. Please don't hurt us. That's perhaps what the Persian takeover of Babylon is most known for. Cyrus didn't hurt anybody. And as I said earlier, Nabonidus' life is spared, which supposedly is the same fate that Cyrus has meted out to all the kings he's faced, which, by the way, is not only unusual, But it's not even maybe true. Who knows? There are always little hints somewhere that maybe Cyrus killed these kids and the propaganda covered it up. Nonetheless, historically and traditionally, he's supposed to have spared and given good lives to all these other kings he defeated: Astyages of the Medes, Croesus of the Lydians, now Nabonidus of the Babylonians. What is the message Cyrus is trying to send here? I mean, that's what I find interesting. You want to know a little bit about the guy himself and maybe what he was trying to do? What's the message when he does that? Because the Assyrian king who last conquered Babylon brags about how he tied the king of Babylon up like a pig and displayed him in the center of Nineveh. So this is not standard operating procedure. It's one of the things, by the way, that fascinates me about Cyrus, because the Occam's razor approach to history, which is the right way to go, I mean, what else are you going to do, is to assume the most logical things, right? You don't assume illogical things. So the assumption always is that someone like Cyrus is playing hardcore, cynical propaganda game. And odds are he probably is, most people would be. But occasionally, you're going to get some different kind of human being, because we see the exist. Just if you're using Occam's razor approach to try to determine what a Gandhi was really like 1,000 years from now, you might be looking at this Gandhi that was there for years. This was a cynical attempt to figure out how to gain power to level. I mean, you can figure out all these real logical reasons why.
5 years? So when I knew there was a fucking pandemic, I was like, oh man, I fucking called it. It was on that fucking billboard by the Pizza Hut.
Morality reasons or humanistic
I
reasons.
was there for a long time.
Sometimes those people slip through the cracks because it's just so easy to assume they had a
usually movie posters don't get
reason for doing things.
don't
Is it
go there.
possible
What?
that Cyrus was kind of a humanist?
Movie posters are big, but it's like
This is how he's portrayed, by the way.
they're big in LA.
Fans
They're not big there.
back in Iran. He was the guy who
That was a
invented
big movie.
human rights, sort of, at least to say. All that was concerned in Babylon is one of the number one pieces of
If I remember this long,
it's trotted out in defense of this idea.
but I'm sure other people did. But it was just this poster that was up for a long, too long.
Tolerance for experiences. That this is how Cyrus really believes you can govern. And it should be pointed out that not only has Babylon kind of surrendered without a fight, there's another Babylonian city or two that kind of opens their doors to Cyrus. And it's interesting because, Rhesus Argami has an interesting take on something that the Babylonian king did as part of the fighting with Cyrus for Babylon.
Maybe I just asked you to tell you.
Supposedly, and this is a way to look at Nabonidus, showing that maybe he was this really responsible king after all. Before Cyrus gets to Babylon, Nabonidus goes around all the surrounding towns and takes their gods, takes all the little statues and the representations of their gods, and takes them to Babylon. And traditionally, this is considered to be an act of safekeeping, right? You don't want your Statue of Liberty falling into the hands of the Elamites and ending up in their trophy case, right? So you take all these village gods back to Babylon for safekeeping. Rhesus Argami, though, has an interesting take on this. In his book, Discovering Cyrus, he does a great job reminding us of the interesting belief systems of the people who have these gods, and then how maybe you can see what Nabonidus is doing is the equivalent of perhaps kidnapping the gods of these towns and holding them hostage for good behavior, right? Stay loyal to Babylon or your god gets it in the neck, something like that. Here's what Argami writes. And remember, this only makes sense if Nabonidus is seriously worried that some of these towns are just going to go over to Cyrus because of the propaganda or whatever. He writes, quote, faced with the very real prospect that his cities would open up their gates to the
Basically,
conqueror,
it's very important where you're born.
Nabonidus settled upon a drastic policy. He decided to hold hostage the sacred idols of Babylonia's outlying cities to ensure the loyalty of their inhabitants.
How old
So
you'll
when
be?
Cyrus and his army resumed their march in the late summer of 539 BCE, a series of caravans laden with divine images and other religious artifacts made its way to Babylon. Living today, we can hardly grasp the full psychological impact of Nabonidus' action. The idol was the centerpiece of the ancient Mesopotamian cult and the most important symbol of the community. The inanimate statues were treated like royalty, bathed, perfumed, groomed, and even fed lavish meals by an entourage of domestic servants, priests, and personal attendants. Ancient Mesopotamian cults were geographically centralized, and the god's powers territorially limited. That is why Cyrus could not receive the divine approval he desired with the gods concentrated in Babylon. He then continues, but Nabonidus was playing a dangerous game by emptying his cities of their idols. Proximity to the cult statue meant everything to the superstitious masses, who believed that the sacred images of their gods could perform miracles, cure illness, and most importantly, protect their settlements. Cities lost divine protection when their gods left. End quote. One of the first things that Cyrus would brag about doing when he takes over Babylon is returning all those gods to the outlying communities, and those people freaking out at having their gods back. Once again, as Pierre Briand says, Cyrus is portraying himself as the restorer of order, of things as they should be. He's beginning to tie himself to the ancient Assyrian tradition. Some historians suggest consciously he'll talk about repairing something in the city and coming across some proclamation by Ashurbanipal, the Assyrian king. He'll tie himself
I regretted
to
it. My friend wanted me to go there.
royal tradition. He starts calling himself King of Kings and King of the Universe. These are old Assyrian and even Akkadian terms. But if Cyrus was starting to use these ancient titles for himself, you can see why he thought he might deserve it. Because 80 or 90 years after the ancient kingdom of Assyria fell, Cyrus had put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Sort of a different form, different marketing, and different branding. But all of a sudden, once again, just as had existed during later Assyrian times, one power had hegemony in that part of the world now. Trying to immensely different people from everything from deeply urban environments in places like Babylon to Phoenician cities to tribes that existed off in the edges of the Eurasian steppe, and incorporate all these different people into one empire. Much is made of the different strategies that the Persians used over the Assyrians. Instead of trying to shoo everybody into one cultural style, convert everybody to your religion, make good Assyrians of these conquered people, the Persians used a much lighter touch. That the idea of toleration really was to allow local customs to continue. The Assyrians wouldn't have tolerated that. The fact that the Persians didn't try to change all that, whether it was a question of religion or language or anything else. In fact, when the Persian Empire gets up and running, Persians will be put in all the most important positions. But Persian will not be the language of the empire. There will always be only a tiny minority of people actually speaking Persian. All of the official proclamations will be multilingual so that different people can read them.
Don't you love about Rebel UK,
All the local
Rebel France,
gods
all
are
these guys you can
respected
do
and
it, but not Rebel
supported.
Switzerland?
Now again, is this some sort of
Switzerland?
humanitarian gesture on Cyrus's part, or is it a guy who is a humanitarian and thinks, listen, I'm just telling you, this is the best way to treat people and it will work out best? In other words, a guy who believes his own humanitarian beliefs and morals dovetail into good outcomes, or is it somebody who cynically looks at this and just says, listen, I'm just telling you, if we do it this way, we'll have less revolts. It'll be much better than the way the Assyrians did it. Who knows? It's tempting to think of Cyrus as brilliant and visionary, regardless of which one of those things is true. He organizes this empire. He starts creating things that are called satraps and satrapies, which are administrative units that will be built upon by his successors. And then the next major thing we hear about Cyrus is almost like, when these people live that far back, you get the highlights of their lives, right? Highlight number 1, conquest of Medea. Highlight number 2, conquest of Lydia. Highlight number 3, conquest of Babylon. Highlight number 4, the expedition against a queen of one of the most powerful tribal coalitions in Central Asia. Now, the fact that there is a queen involved in this story should tip you off to the idea that it's going to be a good one. And Herodotus, by the way, knows this. He's eager to get to this story, and he's going to spend a ton of time on it. He's been setting it up. He knows his audience is ready. He's got a little moral twist that may or may not have anything to do with reality. But you need to look at that 2,500-year-old mind that your mind melding with one way at this point in the story. But it becomes the time where Herodotus is at his least reliable too. He jumps from highlight number 3 to highlight number 4 in Cyrus's life in 1 second. If you look at the actual dates involved, though, you'll see that there is like 9 years between highlight number 3 and highlight number 4, and 9 years when Cyrus is, well, to use his own marketing and branding, king of the universe. What the heck was this guy doing for 9 years? Well, he was putting out some propaganda, we know. Something called the Cyrus Cylinder is famous, and it's this piece where first Cyrus has the Babylonian god saying, I was with him the whole way, and then he introduces himself as this good guy. Again, propaganda makes it easier to travel such a people if you make it feel like it was your god that wanted me here. I came because he took my hand, right? So you're legitimizing your rule and tying you into the age-old power structure, basically saying the king you defeated was the real weirdo, that the god
Just a
didn't
ton
want.
of
I
this
am
fucking
restoring,
shit.
the kingship to the people that Marduk wants to have it. You can see that the same is true in a lot of the other, religions that Cyrus is involved with. This is why a lot of people think his whole propaganda tolerance thing was much more of a political move, because look at how it helps him politically, in a way that, by the way, he could not have foreseen. It made him immortal. This is from Peter Brown's book, From Cyrus to Alexander, but it's the translation from the Bible that he uses. In the same way that the Cyrus Cylinder says the Babylonian god Marduk took Cyrus's hand and, swept away all the opposition. This is what the Israeli god Yahweh did, according to the Bible. Quote, thus says Yahweh to his appointed, to Cyrus, whom he has taken by his right hand to subdue nations before him, and strip the loins of kings, to force gateways before him, that their gates be closed no more. I will go before you, leveling the heights. I will shatter the bronze gateways, smash the iron bars. I will give you the hidden treasures, the secret hoards, that you may know that I am Yahweh.
Really? Oh, it's on the river.
So
Too.
once again, Cyrus has these gods on his side. Why are they on his side? Well, he's always
felt like my
helping,
soul
isn't he? He's always
was like,
doing what the priesthood of Marduk would like him to.
in the
It's
summer.
interesting how
Anyway.
Marduk follows along. He likes if you treat his priests.
But I remember my grandfather had told
In
me
the case of Yahweh,
we would be
well, according to the
driving
Bible,
or
and Pierre Briand is
on the
skeptical
river,
of
and
the
he'd always point
details,
out
but
this one
says
house
in
instead.
the bigger picture, at least, it
I
was
had a friend who
consistent
lived
with
there.
what actually happened.
He was a
The Bible
bootlegger,
says that in the reign
and
of a king,
he used to be able to take
after two official kings after
a
Cyrus,
boat
they found the
from
actual order
the ocean, Atlantic
that
Ocean,
made Yahweh pleased with
basically from
investing, shall we
the
say,
St. Lawrence
in
Seaway
Cyrus' conquest,
to.
according to the Bible and
You
Pierre
wouldn't do that
Briand's
though.
description of it.
If you needed to, though, you
This
could.
is from
To
Ezra,
the,
by the way. Out of the
the lake,
Royal Archives of Ecbatana.
Lake Erie, like
In
Ontario,
the
like
first year of
Huron,
Cyrus the king,
or
King
like Ontario,
Cyrus
like Huron,
decreed
like Erie,
the temple of
like
God in
Huron,
Jerusalem.
like
The temple
Michigan,
will be rebuilt as a
down
place at which sacrifices are offered,
the
and by which offerings are brought to be burnt.
river.
Its height is to be 60 cubits,
Joseph
its
River,
width
and
60
take
cubits.
his house
There are to
right
be
there.
3 thicknesses of
You
stone
could also
blocks
take that
and 1 of wood.
from his house
The
to
expense is
Canada
to be
from
met by
that
the
waterway.
king's household.
And we're like, wow,
Furthermore,
you can
the
get to a lot of
vessels of
places
gold and silver from the
from that
temple of
place.
God, which
No.
Nebuchadnezzar took from the sanctuary in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon,
Chicago,
are to be
you can get
restored,
to
so that everything may be restored to the sanctuary in Jerusalem and put back in the temple of God.
Vernon Count.
That dovetails nicely with that story
Gulf
of the
of Mexico,
ghostly hand, doesn't it?
and
Because what that guy
Atlantic Ocean.
Belshazzar was
To
drinking
Mississippi,
out of that
St.
made
Louis Seaway.
Yahweh so mad to begin with are all these sacred
Big
vessels from the old temple in Jerusalem, Solomon's temple. Now Cyrus was decreeing that you rebuild Solomon's temple, and you pay for it out of the king's treasury, and you bring back all these things that are still around and restock the temple with them, and then you send the people who have been deported here back home.
It's like 13, but say it's 11.
Now here's the thing, this reconstituted, area that will become a satrap, by the way, does not have its political freedom. They're not going to be the way they were, when the Babylonians and Egyptians were arguing over them. But you've got to see that they're pretty darn far ahead. They went from a people that might have died out religiously. In fact, the book I had that places Cyrus as one of the top most 100 influential people of all time says that that's one of the things maybe you credit him with. The fact that if he doesn't do this, there's a chance Judaism doesn't continue over the long haul. In this case, he builds what's known as the Second Temple. And if you want to see continuity, the wall that is still one of the holiest, if not the holiest sites. I guess the Temple Mount would be holier, but it's part of the Temple Mount. It is the famous, Western Wall. The Western Wall is a Roman era addition to the Second Temple, which Cyrus allegedly, according to the Bible, paid for and authorized. It's so interesting, isn't it, to consider how connected the stories of the ancient Iranians, the ancient Persians are to the ancient Jewish folks, especially considering the current antagonism between them. As late as the 1970s, the Shah of Iran was touting this ancient closeness between the peoples and their relationship. If not for the ancient Persians and Iranians, there's a chance there wouldn't be Judaism today. And depending on when it died out, there's a very good chance you wouldn't have had the religions that sprouted off that branch. You wouldn't have had Christianity. You probably wouldn't have had Islam. In other words, if Cyrus the Great actually did do this, and he had never lived to do it, what would the world look like today? Another thing it says in that 100 most influential people of all time that I thought was interesting is that many of the people that get credited as being very important and dynamic and instrumental human beings in terms of their effect on history did something that would have been done anyway. Might not have been done at that time or that way, but a lot of this stuff would have happened. Someone else would have discovered the light bulb, probably. The author thought it likely that if Cyrus the Great had never lived, none of this stuff happens. He was a unique individual. And even though you can't get your mind around the specifics of how he was a unique individual, you can sort of look at what built up. Even if Pierre Briand's right, and you have to assume that there was a lot of foundation bubbling up under the surface for Cyrus to work with, this is still a pretty incredible human being. I think you could probably say, with a decent chance of being right, that he is, in the 530s BCE, the greatest geopolitical figure who's ever lived. Which makes the next thing I'm going to say so hard to believe. Why should I say it? How about historian A.T. Olmsted, a book published in 1948, say it? And again, is there any more of a telling example that these people live at the very tail end of the black and white era of recording of human history? Because how can this guy be as big as he is, and yet this next line be true? Olmsted said, quote, "Here we must leave Cyrus, for suddenly and without warning, our information comes to an end. 200 years after this period, we will know Alexander the Great's symptoms to such a degree that doctors today try to diagnose what he may have died of. And they still don't know. I'm not saying everything's perfect. But you know where, when, the hows, the whys. How can you not know how this guy dies? Highlight number 4 in his life as portrayed by Herodotus is Herodotus' story of how he dies. And I love the fact that Herodotus goes to, the trouble to point out that he's heard several different versions of this story, but the one he's going to give you is the one he thinks is most likely. And maybe it's just a coincidence that the story that Herodotus thinks is most likely is the one with the most exotic, interesting, movie-like elements to it you can imagine. I can't imagine he left a better version on the table somewhere saying, no, I just don't believe that. Because the one he used is so awesome. Now, is it believable? That's the problem here. Nobody knows what's believable. Off the top of my head, if you ask me what percentage bought into the general idea of Herodotus' story, I'd say it's like 80%. Most of them don't believe any of the details, but the broad idea that in 530 BCE, Cyrus the Great died somewhere out in the steppe area, as Herodotus said, details probably unknown. About 20%, I'd say, of the historians, though, think he died a completely different way. Some think against different tribes than Herodotus says, different areas. Others that he didn't die that way at all. Xenophon, writing a couple centuries afterwards, will say he died in bed, peacefully. So there are some historians who buy that too. In Iran, it's generally, I think, a higher percentage of historians that think he didn't die the way Herodotus says. And in part, you can understand why you'd be a little skeptical. It's just too darn interesting the way Herodotus does it. You can see, the admonition that I got when I was starting in journalism, the one that said, tell what really happened in the most interesting way possible. What happens to an admonition like that if there's no way you could possibly know what really happened? But you have to tell it anyway. one of your standards, then you're pretty much left with the most interesting way you can at that point, right? Well, the story, as Herodotus tells it, involves this twist. You're going to end up leaving his theatrical presentation with a deeper message. Again, the deeper message may or may not be true. Herodotus couches this story now into the idea of overreach, maybe the idea of absolute power corrupting absolutely. And before we write this off, as many historians do right away, because it's just such an obvious moral message, remember, you can make that case about Hitler, with the absolute power turning you mad after a while. With Alexander, you can make that case. I mean, I guess there are historical figures where this is both a motif, because it's this recurring theme you see all the time, but it also happens to be true. Maybe after years of being king of the universe, Cyrus got a little full of himself. Who knows? But that's the way this is portrayed, right? There's going to be an object lesson here, and the person that is going to stick it to Cyrus and teach him this lesson is going to be a queen. Yeah, but you have to think of like an Amazonian queen. This isn't some woman who's walking around in velvet, on a throne being fanned. I mean, this is a person who probably once upon a time was killing men in hand-to-hand combat. Now, did this woman really exist? Who the heck knows? There's no historical confirmation that I've ever seen that says that they found anything that proves this queen, whose name, by the way, I used to call her Tamiris when I was growing up, but I've seen Timorous, Tomarus, a number of different pronunciations. I think Shakespeare might have used her as a character in his plays. Nonetheless, you can say a couple of things. One, it wouldn't have been outrageous to think of her as a female warrior, because these tribes actually had them. It may have been the actual root of the idea of Amazons in sort of a mythology. So she could have actually been a killer warrior. And also the tribe she was supposed to have led was real, all too real to some people. They were called the Massacatae, the Message Tie. A dangerous, powerful, numerous tribal coalition that, Herodotus in his writings, he has to set it up and tell you what he knows, which isn't much. He says, I hear there are Scythian people, which they kind of were. You have to think of Mongol-type culture, but with people who were probably predominantly light-skinned and ranging on the scale of looks from like a Turkic kind of look all the way up to people with blonde and red hair, blue and green eyes, tall. There's a little Viking side to them, a little bit of the Viking ethos, sword worshipping and things like that. Supposedly once a year, these people would have a scaffold erected. They'd put a sword on top of the scaffold, and then they would march underneath the scaffold, one out of every 100 prisoners that they captured over the year, and execute them as a sacrifice to the sky god, the sun god, Mithra, it was. These are colorful, scary people, just what you want in a story like this. Herodotus has already talked about their headhunting, the fact that they make, drinking cups out of skulls, and the really nasty warriors are the ones with the most cups. He talks about their cannabis use. Again, this is the exotic barbarian. You want to hear what they do? He says they found this fruit that they can burn, and then they sit around the fire burning the fruit, and it gets them intoxicated like wine gets Greeks intoxicated. So they've a barbarian color to them. He also points out, according to him, that they're very promiscuous. You might call them free love types or swingers, maybe. Anybody can sleep with anybody else's wife. He just has to put his bow, alongside their tent to let them know you're interested, I guess. So, weed smoking, head hunting, blood drinking, wife sharing Viking types. Who would not want that in a good story? If you don't know anything and you're just trying to make the best story, make sure you include these people. Herodotus says that Cyrus leads an army up to this queen's territory and then basically proposes marriage to her. So it would be like a diplomatic alliance. Then Herodotus says that she sees through this ruse immediately, saying he just wants to conquer her people by marrying her. So then when she says no, he begins to try to set up what we would call today an amphibious river crossing. There's a big river that divides the territory he's coming from the territory of these Central Asian horse nomads up in places like, Kazakhstan and places like that today. And as Cyrus and the Persians were told are building these boats, some who would which have like towers, like fighting towers on them. She sends him a message. Now remember, she's going to be like the voice of avenging karma here in teaching Cyrus a lesson. So her voice and the words that Herodotus puts in her mouth from a screenwriter, showrunner's point of view, are designed to set this idea up, right? You should know, but you don't. You're going to get what's coming to you. Here's what Herodotus says. This is the Seleucid translation of Herodotus. King of the Medes, I advise you to abandon this enterprise, for you cannot know if in the end it will do you any good. Rule your own people, and try to bear the sight of me ruling mine. But of course you will refuse my advice, as the last thing you wish for is to live in peace. Listen then, if you are so bent upon trying your strength against the Massacatae, give up the laborious task of building that bridge, and let my army withdraw 3 days' march from the river, and then you come over yourself. Or if you prefer it, retire the same distance yourselves, and let us meet you on your side of the river. This barbarian warrior queen is basically saying to a guy whose title includes King of Kings and King of the Universe to come and get it, or I'll come over and take it from you. That's a pretty strong female character, isn't it? And I was thinking that it makes Herodotus at times look a little pro-feminist, right? Like he's been looking for a good, strong female character. There's another reason maybe that would play well. Maybe some of the people in his audience are women, and it would be good to have a character that they could both relate to and cheer for. Finally, it might just be a dig at the manliness of the Persians, right? I mean, here's the greatest king that Asia has ever produced, and he's about to be beaten and killed by a woman. Nonetheless, in the story, when she says, do you want it over here? Do you want it over there? Cyrus and his, generals and whatnot sit down and have a conference about this. What do we do? Which choice do we take? And all his advisors say, let her come to our side of the river. One advisor, though, says, no, go over to her side. That advisor is our old friend, the king of Lydia, Croesus, who instead of being killed, Herodotus has, going in the story, sort of acting as advisor to Cyrus all the way through. Croesus' advice is totally different. First of all, he says you can't let her come over here and give ground in front of her. It's a woman. It would look terrible. So there's that other little dig. He says go over to her side. And then he says, and how about we do a little trick? He proceeds to tell Cyrus that they should essentially do the same thing to these people that the Medes did to either these people or their cousins a generation before in a story you may recall. Get them all drunk and kill them. My Seleucid translation has Croesus telling Cyrus to do it this way. Here then is my advice. Cross the river, advance to the limit of the enemy's withdrawal, and then get the better of them by a piece of strategy. I have heard that these people have no experience of such luxuries as the Persians enjoy, and know nothing about the pleasures of life. Let us take advantage of this fact and set out a banquet in our camp on the most generous scale, with a great many sheep slaughtered and dressed, all sorts of other dishes, and bowls of strong wine in liberal quantities. Then when the banquet is all prepared, he says, let us march back to the river, leaving only a detachment of inferior troops behind. Unless I'm very much mistaken, when our enemies see all those good things, they will set to work upon them, and that will be our chance to distinguish ourselves by a bold stroke. Again, got a recurring motif, or is that just a tactic that seems to work quite a bit? Who knows? But in the story, we're told that a third of the army shows up, kills the inferior troops, sees all the food and the wine, proceeds to get very full and very drunk, and then the Persians come in and kill a bunch of them and capture some others. About a third of the army, according to Herodotus. Included amongst the prisoners, a general, who also happens to be this barbarian queen's son. So now in this scenario Herodotus is playing with, his movie's turned into a little bit of a thriller with a little chess match, and all of a sudden Cyrus' side has captured a major piece, the son of the queen. So she issues one of these, I'll let you go now if you give me back my son, kinds of speeches. From the Purvis translation, Herodotus says, quote, When Tamiris learned what had happened to her army and her son, she sent a herald to Cyrus with this message: "Bloodthirsty Cyrus, do not gloat over what has happened here. You Persians indulge yourself with the fruit of the vine to the point of madness, so that the wine descends into your bodies. Ugly words flow up and out of you. By such means you have tricked me, and you've taken my son prisoner, but not by supremacy in battle. Well then, I urge you to follow this advice. Return my son to me, and despite the damage you have cunningly wreaked upon a third part of the army of the Massacre, you may leave this land unharmed. If you do not do this, I swear by the sun, the Lord of the Massacre, that I will satisfy your thirst for blood, insatiable as you are." End quote. So what's Cyrus gonna do with this interesting, powerful chess piece? He doesn't get the chance to decide, because we're told that as soon as the queen's son sobers up, finds himself, hands tied or bound, he beseeches Cyrus to undo his hands. Somehow Cyrus is convinced, and like the way my Rawlinson translation puts it, the minute his hands were free, Rawlinson's Herodotus says he destroyed himself. So he committed suicide. Now all of a sudden, Cyrus just lost his peace. This is when we're told the battle happens. This from the Deselagor translation quote. The queen, on hearing that Cyrus ignored her terms, engaged him in the field with all the forces she possessed. The battle which followed I judge to have been more violent than any other fought between foreign nations. According to the information that I have, the engagement began with the two armies coming to a halt within range and exchanging shots with bows and arrows until their arrows were used up, after which there was a long period of close fighting with spears and daggers, neither side being willing to retreat. Finally, however, the Massacre got the upper hand. The greater part of the Persian army was destroyed where it stood, and Cyrus himself was killed. He had been on the throne for years. Of course, that doesn't quite twist the knife enough.
Like how
Have you leaving the performance,
That's correct.
thinking
We
about
got
some of the greater themes in life? So Herodotus, from my Purvis translation,
hello, Paul.
adds a coda to the story. He writes, quote, "Queen Tamiris then filled a wineskin with human blood and searched for the corpse of Cyrus amongst the Persian dead. When she found him, she thrust his head into the wineskin, and as she thus abused the corpse, she declared to it, 'I am alive, and have conquered you in battle, but you have ruined me by taking my son through guile. Well then, just as I threatened, I will slake your thirst for blood.'" End quote. So if, as the recurring Greek motif will later show, that the Persians are serial overreachers, I'm sure Herodotus' attitude here is that they should have learned their lesson with Cyrus. By the time Cyrus exits the scene, though, he's built an
It's
empire
so dark.
that stretches
Only 5
from
minutes.
the modern-day Pakistan all the way to the Mediterranean, up into Turkey, down by the Red Sea to the borders of Egypt, and out to the Central Asian steppe. He's taken efforts and spent years organizing it and putting it in a form where it has a chance to live on after he's gone. Nonetheless, you cannot lose a person of that magnitude. You cannot lose an Alexander. You cannot lose a Napoleon. You cannot lose and have these people from such lofty heights removed from the scene without there being this huge vacuum. A couple hundred years after this time period, one of the people who will fill a vacuum, play a similar role, and maybe eclipse this person who visited his tomb. Alexander the Great, along with some influential colleagues, will go to the spot in the building that is assumed to be the tomb of Cyrus the Great. That tomb is still standing, by the way, in modern-day Iran, if it ever was the tomb. It's interesting to think of Alexander climbing up there in a fully colorized historical era now, by the way, bringing with him people who will write about it afterwards. We actually have, through another guy, the writings of someone who was with Alexander, who kind of describes what the tomb looked like. A lot of clothing, a lot of souvenirs, a lot of things that just help the guy in the afterlife sort of deal with the body. was preserved in wax.
What is that?
This was kind of a Persian custom too.
What is that?
This might just be me, but I had this feeling that the queen of the Massachini or the Massachini had taken his head or something. That's a mutilation that they would have probably told us about. It's probable that the body looked pretty darn good because no one talked about it looking any other way. Told that there was an inscription on two some historians think it must have
He's
been
very, very nice. Both of those guys were top shelf as individuals. Then I loved them. Really, yeah, it was really hard to believe. They were like very, very cartoon, and I love them both very much. I love all those guys.
Mortal, I am Cyrus, son of Cambyses, who founded the Persian Empire and was king of Asia. Grudge me not.
Benefits, nothing. They work overtime. They work.
But there are other traditions, also from eyewitness accounts originally, that record a very different sort of epitaph. Some of the historians I might say it's much more traditionally oriented to, it's much more pithy and right to the point. The Persians were the leading the empire could literally heirs as well as any Mesopotamian
They just, I can't say enough good things. I can't say anything negative about them, and I can't say.
Victoria had the Empress of India. The kings of this area had King of the Universe, King of the Four Corners of the Earth, King of Lands. The Persians could do that.
I really like that
Sometimes
style.
we were just recording
Why?
for eternity.
One of my favorite jobs of all time.
This is.
I was a controller, which isn't an accountant, but I didn't know that when I first got there. I just didn't even know what an accountant was. I just got the job.
From an eyewitness that I like the most, and I like to use
I was at the
sources.
library, and I called this woman at like 8 in the morning. And I was like, this one's nuts. She put her fucking telephone number on Craigslist. You're fucking nuts. If you do that, you're desperate as fuck. So I'll call her. So I'm desperate as fuck too. And she's like, do you know anything about QuickBooks? I'm like, about QuickBooks. That's great. She's like, do you know how to transfer QuickBooks desktop to QuickBooks Online? And I said, I absolutely do. Why? Because I had not 5 minutes before watched a 3-minute YouTube video on how to do that. And so I was like, I know exactly how to do that. And she's like, oh, wow. Okay, well, can you meet tonight at 6 p.m.? I was like, really? I got the phone call. Hey, sure, 6 p.m. So I go to meet at 6 p.m. in a suit and tie, and she's like, I don't have time for this right now.
Compared to what?
And
Just her gives us some idea.
she's like, can you come back later?
Might be compared to.
And I'm like, I've got a class at 7. I had a ton of class. So I said I could be back at like
between two other stories, right? Somewhere between the fall of Assyria and the
8:30
rise
p.m.
of Persia.
She's like, go for it.
Is the
And so
latter part of the
I remember this was like, okay, this is going to be a weird job if I'm going to be going in at 8:30 p.m. after Trumanish class, but they understand that I have class, which is really nice of them. They were like, no, if you have a class, that's fine, go. That was your first. And they understood. So I was like, okay, well,
power like the U.S. or the Soviet Union collapsing the rest of the world, so looking at each other.
class, and then I went back
Smoke and ruins trying to figure
and
out
I had like a 2-hour interview with them.
right now.
And
Love that.
what got him? It was like,
This whole story at this point is, when it took such a singular
kept-
figure to put this in
they're like, well, why should we hire you? Why should we hire you? Why
when
should
you
we hire
vet
you?
together, what happens
And
when that figure
I was
exits
saying
the
all the right
scene?
things, but it's
What
like,
are
you
the odds
still
of
don't know
getting
at
two
the end of the
Cyrus
day.
the Greats
And
in
I
the same
finally
family?
said,
One
I don't know, I
right
said
after
something
another.
that I remember clicking both their heads, which was like,
Remember, this is the largest empire in world history. The distance from one part to another is daunting. Then you have all these different people
it was
that are
something
very
like, you will
independent
never have
minded
someone who cares
and
more about your
fractious
business
and who gave
than
the
I do.
Assyrians
But it was also something like,
fits all the time.
if you don't choose me right now, you are making a
So many
massive
different
mistake.
languages. How is
And
one small minority of people
at the end, they
this
were like,
giant entity, especially without the specially gifted
no,
guy who built the
we
whole
think we would be if we didn't
The
take
next
you.
episode.
And so they were like, well, what,
Cambyses,
how much
the son
do
of
you want to
Cyrus,
make?
manages all this.
And
There will be coups, and there will potentially be armies disappearing in
I wondered what I
sandstorms.
was
There
making.
will be far too many creeks, probably, for what the story really warrants. But you have to understand, we all know instinctively there are important things going on
And
in the east and the north and the other parts of the Persian Empire that don't touch Greek lands. The only people right
and I went in the next day, and I was so rigid in this job. I would dive in at Beth Jacob every day, and from 6:30 to 7:40, and then 20-minute drive or so. Though this is the cool thing. I could take one of two routes to go to work, and I could take the freeway and be there in like 7 minutes, or I could take the what I call the back, which is super, and it would take like 20. And so I'd take that back road, get at work right before 8, and I had a suitcase. I put my a briefcase. I would skip
If you think the show you just heard is worth $1,
I bring a briefcase in. I carry this briefcase
about the show.
everywhere.
It's all we
And
ask. Go to dancarlin.com for information on how to
half the
donate
reason
to
why I
the
got
show.
this job is no one carries a briefcase anymore. Not even lawyers. And I come and I carry this fucking briefcase everywhere, and everyone was like, "What in the fuck is in this fucking briefcase?" This guy is carrying his briefcase everywhere. It's like when you're handcuffed to a fucking briefcase. Basically. Really? Yeah. And what was it? I always had their numbers in it. So I always knew exactly, not to the moment where we were together, but at least that day I knew exactly what was in the bank account. And if we wanted the moment, which we would check all the time, it was right there on the computer. And there was the Chabad family that right next door. That's their book. Boy in the Box. Gotta get that. Because second selling children's book in Israeli history, I have a version. We have that. And it was really nice just to see them every Shabbat. It was this weird part of like this weird area of Judaism. It's definitely Jewish. Why? And we were exchanging gifts from Purim and wishing each other Shabbat and all kinds of stuff like that. And there were like 3 of us, and in this weird part of Santa Ana, California, and they had a recording studio. Shout out to Orange County Recording Studio. But Aesop is the son. He's really nice. He's in love with this girl. He's like really in love with her. And he doesn't know she's Jewish. And I told him that she was. I told him that she was. I went to him and I said, "You're in love with this girl." And this was more recently. That was like years ago. This was within the last year, and it's on camera. I said, "You're in love with this girl." I hadn't seen him in years, and I went there and I was like, "Hey, I know it's been a long time since we've seen each other, but you're in love with this girl." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You're in love with that girl, and you can't marry her because you don't think she's Jewish, but she is. She just doesn't know. She is matrilineal. What if I told you that?" Like I came into his life and told him that this woman that I knew with whom he was in love, but he could not marry. And I was like, "You can believe me or not," but I told him that you know how to live a Jewish life. You should ask her out. And why did I know he liked that girl? He was in this music video with her. This really good song. I don't remember the name of it or anything, but I just watched like I didn't have a lot of time to watch his whole album. Well, it was all music, but he had one music video on it or something like that, maybe 2. But the music video was really good. He was in like Huntington Beach, so I like recognized the place. He looked like he was having a lot of fun with this girl, and you could sense it in the video. And I just had always had this weird feeling about those two. And because it was weird, it was like, "Hey, Soph, this isn't the kind of girl with whom you should be. You know that, and he knows that too." But looking back at the past and realizing that. Because he's pretty nice man. And throughout history that had either close to or religious on the outside. Like that's the thing. Half these motherfuckers have these beards and these fucking. Well, you could certainly say most of them probably lost perspective. For example, what life was like for normal people. The vast majority of them didn't go crazy, which might be more interesting
than assuming the opposite. Although we all know of the high-profile examples, don't we?
Talents who are wearing them all the time and shit. I mean,
When I go right to Godwin's lemon, look at Hitler.
half those guys
You could say maybe
are outside because they're smoking cigarettes, and
Parkinson's disease, or maybe the Dr. Field
inside they're
drugs he
inside
was
beaten up.
shot
I mean,
up
they're
with.
normal people.
At the same time, by the end of his
They're just
role,
dressed
he's
in suits anyway.
exhibiting the classic
It's almost like
symptoms
they're
of
just stuck in there.
megalomania and paranoia.
I'm not saying he is like
that
that,
come
but he
with the
probably
absolute
really.
power.
Anyway, no.
Sort of stereotype.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Look at a guy like Alexander
Anyway,
the Great. I mean,
so,
he's almost another kind
but
of
the other
God.
thing, this was the weird thing. I said, "Where's your mother?"
By his
Like when I
early
told him
work,
this,
he's
it was
as
like I was a
paranoid
fucking angel.
as
And
megalomaniacal as
I was like,
Hitler
"Where's your
is.
mother?"
And
And
again,
he's
maybe
like,
some of that's connected to what a lot of
"Here,
historians
go
would
get
call
her."
rampant
She's like, "Oh, how are you?" And
Truman maybe the point
she
is
was
that
used to calling me
alcohol,
Rabbi,
who knows,
Rabbi,
was
Rabbi,
difficult to
Rabbi,
separate.
and
But Alexander seemed to be able to handle power initially, but somewhere along the line,
said she even brought a rabbi to me, Rabbi Berkowitz. It becomes really big. Chabad of West Orange County. He came out. Why? Because he wanted to see my tefillin or my tzitzit. And I had a certain kind of tzitzit. Really? Yeah. And he's like, who says you can wear the? He's like, your tzitzit are colored. I said, I know. They're blue. And he said, how do you know what color? And I just said,
by doing so,
my rabbi wears blue tzitzit.
creates an immense challenge for his son to overcome.
He has this guy in
Something very close to
San Diego
back
who
in
knows
the
what
beginning.
fucking
But also he hands his son
fish.
something that is
He's like,
so
yeah, it's from a
valuable.
fish. He's like, okay, so you know it's from a fish. I was like, yeah, it's some kind of dye from a fish. He's like, oh, okay. So I'm like, yeah, so it's something like that. He's like, but I didn't say that was the color. It's not. That's a different thing. That's on a talus. So what did you have? I just had something that I had from where I had ordered it from Amazon, but I liked them because they were a color. Everybody has white, but nobody ever says that it has to be white. I was the first person, really. I mean, I guess people might wear these on a talus, but no one wears them. You can't wear it. But I had colored tzitzit with like a blue string in it. Really? Yeah, it's like a royal blue string. Really? So she had never seen this before because I invented it. So she brings a rabbi in, and I talked to him, very nice, and he came up and he looked at the. I was like, "You want to see my office?" He's like, "Sure." Comes in. I've had. Did you have a mezuzah on the door? I had like a piece of tape or something. I always do that if I have a piece of tape. But he could see there was something on the door, and I just showed him it's a real small area. And they had a fucking camera. This is how work is in the future. They had a camera right here over my head. So I knew there's no fucking with this. No one is. I'm not going to be able to fucking say. So I was all on camera, and it didn't fucking matter to me in that job. So what? Well, I was pretty smart, and I could take the laptop and put it up against this bookshelf. And well, when I took that job, the girl who took the job just was like watching Netflix all day. I'm like, you watch Netflix all day? She's like, that or Hulu. I'm like, what? You watch it all day? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, you work overtime on these people all this amount of time, and you're just watching Netflix and stuff? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you don't have a moral issue with that? She's like, no. She's like, they need me, and I'm here when they need me. And so I realized they were pretty relaxed when it came to that. But here's the thing. They knew she was doing it, but they didn't have the balls to call her out on it because they didn't need her. They didn't have anybody else to read it. It was like she had a whole bunch of knowledge, and she became almost irreplaceable. They really needed someone that was smart, could learn very quickly from her, and then they could terminate her because they wanted to. Why? I would say, I think she probably get that job back. She was disrespectful. I think she would like tweet about the owner of the company with pictures of her. You can't do that and keep your job. Really? Yeah, but not just that. That's the small things. The big ones were
the second generation, the third generation begins to live a
it's
lifestyle
time theft
that's
is
different
really
and
what it is at the
expects
end of
these
the day.
sorts of things.
What she would work like
Cyrus training
8
his
a.m.
son
to 8 p.m.,
for
which is
years
a lot,
before his demise
and
to make
work
him
all kinds of
ready,
overtime.
essentially on-the-job training.
And then
to
say at the
hand
end
over
of the
the
day,
family business to
well, I
his
worked
son. So his son gets to be the viceroy of Babylon for a
35
while,
hours
gets
of
to hang out
overtime
with
this
the
work.
army for a while.
You can
To
pay
do
me
that,
for
he's learning
20.
how to be
But did she really?
the king of kings.
She sat there and watched Hulu and
That
Netflix
somehow
when she
increases
could have
your
done that
chances
at home, but she wasn't
of
doing anything for fun.
perspective.
So was she there? Yeah, but they didn't need her. They weren't even on site, and they didn't need her. So it was like she knew when she could go home. And I, with them,
how much of a problem you have when you have more than one
when I
person
first took the job, I was like, oh my God. They had someone train me, and that was, she was the one trained. And I said, you know, she's just stealing your time. This job is like a 4-hour job. It's not that hard. And there was another element to it that was like 2 hours, maybe a maximum a day of helping. So I also managed Johnny Carson's bartender's finance. I was Johnny Carson's bartender's accountant. I still am. Really? They never rehired that fully. Really? No. Um, so what? Johnny Carson had a bartender named Robert. Bob, do you know him? I don't want to know. Really? Yeah. Why? But you were his accountant. I know. So you didn't know him, but you were his accountant? Yeah. Wait, you were Johnny Carson's bartender's accountant. How does that happen? At the same time, you're a control of business. Well, that's the funny thing. So when I get this job, I call her on the phone. So I'm talking to, like, I know accountancy. I don't know anything about accountancy. Nothing. I'm looking up, what does accounting mean? I had no idea. No fucking clue. The owners of the business, one of them was a self-made man. The other person had an accountancy degree, and I was able to bullshit my way in this fucking interview like Frank Abagnale. And because he can't handle the amount of absolute power he has. That's what the engine I answered all the questions correctly. They didn't test me too aggressively on my accountancy knowledge. I had on my things about the John F. Kennedy assassination resume, details about that, because there's something about the demise of. I had left my previous job on my own terms because I wanted to move, and I did. I moved to here. I moved to this room, but I knew I couldn't do the commute, and I wanted to be here so I could live in Irvine and be very religious. You couldn't do that in Long Beach, not the same way. I did live in walking distance of a shul. Chabad, Bixby Knowles. Bixby Knowles explodes. It's really nice. Oh, Bixby Knowles is so cool. Really? They have this like campaign, this sign campaign. Bixby is, and those become big. Those fucking things on sign poles. Like here, it's University of California's #1 school for the American dream. I used to see that and be like, I'm the right fucking person. Anyway, I used to look at that on Shabbat. Really, I'd walk home and I'd see that. It's a good place for all kinds of things. Really, yeah. Donuts, who succeeds him for a couple of days to sign the peace agreement. Anyway, are you done? Napoleon. The second unenviable position. But if modern historians are to be believed, and I shouldn't see why they should be, he did a pretty good job for the time he had available to him. What? Was he insane? That's much harder. So I bullshit my way in this job. When I got there were 2 other accountants. What fucking? I was like, what fucking? What is this? The office? Like the office as of the American office, even the British one. you wouldn't have an account, a full-time accountant there for such a small branch. That would be held at done at corporate level. But yet they've got Angela, Oscar, and Kevin, all three full-time accountants. So I get there, and I'm accountant extraordinary. There's another accountant who's a controller, and then there's a third accountant, shout out to her, Michelle. And I get there, and the first day, I'm like, I don't want to show my hands. I'm like, shit, there are two other accountants. I'm going to bullshit my way. And now I'm their boss. Really? Yeah. I'm like, oh, shit. So somehow I got to get rid of these people. Number one, they showed me what was in the bank account. It was like, I have more money than that. They're like, oh, yeah. It'll get better at the end of the week, but we operate with, like, very little. For business owners, they would operate at, like, with, like, $4,000 in cash, like total of their account. I mean, that's not a lot. And they just had to get loan after loan after loan after loan. It was just this perpetual state of chaos. And when I got there, they had what were these things? They're terrible. This thing that come out every single day for a loan. Anyway, you have to put up your house for all kinds of stuff. I don't think they did, but they put up other people's houses, and that's when I left. Why? I had a moral issue. I knew where this business was going, and that it would bankrupt itself because of its interest. It couldn't pay back the interest fast enough. So what? No, I had an opportunity. Couple opportunities at the same time. 3 opportunities at once. Post office, being an accountant in another company, being managing director. Where I was. Anyway. Are you done?
He exhumed mummies and pried into royal tombs, regardless of ancient curses. He profaned the temples and ordered their idols to be burnt. He thought in this way to cure the Egyptians of superstition.
So I was there, and no offense to those people,
the Egyptians were certain that their gods had punished him, and that their theology was now confirmed beyond dispute, as if again to illustrate the inconveniences of monarchy.
Well, immediately I knew I wasn't going to fit in, because they're like, so you're Jewish? I was like, yeah. And they're like, so you do all the Jewish stuff? I was like, yeah. So they're like, what does that mean? I'm like, they keep kosher. So they were nice. They wanted to invite me out to go to places, but it was like, I keep kosher and go to those places. And, which causes a lot of issues. Oh, dude, no way. Racist.
From that moment, he disappears from history. Tradition has it that he killed himself. If you're the ancient screenwriter that is Herodotus, you love this guy as a story element. But is it true?
So, you know that guy? Yes. He's the one. I know one creator. Really? Yeah. Why doesn't he help you?
Often thought the history is like a crime scene. And, I am not a historian. I'm an admirer.
Did you ever help him? Fuck yeah. He would say, the rabbi is the nicest. He looked out for me and my money better than I looked out for me and my money. Really? Yeah. Why? They're sort of like old-timer investigators. They go out there, they interview witnesses, they try to figure out what happened. I just basically told him, once you get your fucking check, make sure that thing gets cashed immediately. Really? Yeah, you don't want to give it a lot of time. Why? Because they can always put a stop pay on it. And if they don't like your work or something like that, make sure you get that money cashed immediately. Really? And did he? I told him the fastest fuck. I'm like, this is the closest branch you want to go, yada, yada, yada. Really, yeah.
Modern day historians go back and examine this case. They break it down to the same sorts of things you would if you were Sergeant Joe Friday going into the scene.
And then what?
You'd start looking at the physical evidence. Right?
Why'd you leave? Well, I want to be religious. I was going to be archaeological stuff. Yeah. Why? I work for the most difficult cause to ever listen to ever be religious. Basically, who you wouldn't sue over it. Really? Yeah. I mean, did you? No. And would you? Other people would. I didn't. Why?
Composite of what the person, the victim, was like. And then maybe you send investigators down to the city hall and you start looking at the paper trail and see if there's any, records
I just
of
understood
arrest records, real estate transactions,
the circumstances, and
those are the, ancient
I'm
sources
just
like
not
the
that kind of person.
tablets.
Really? Yeah. I mean,
you try to compile some sort of a semblance of what happened based on, the total view of the evidence.
And that isn't to say I didn't make
The story that came by
arrangements, but they were very difficult to make, really. But I always felt guilty about it. That isn't to say I still didn't do it, but I mean, I was working really hard, so it's not like I didn't deserve it. But I worked an entire year on Sundays without getting paid. Really? Just to get this business going. And did you? Yeah. Did you hate working? I did it just to keep a job, basically. I mean, I knew I would have been able to keep a job, but so what happened? I'll go into all these stories right now. But the one that
first really gave the
getting it as an accountant, I love that job.
Really?
Yeah. Well, why didn't you keep it? The business wasn't making money, and it was very difficult for the business to make money because it had so much debt. And whenever they'd have any money come in, it was great. That went to the debt. So it's hard to start a business, and if it does, is it debt free? If it's not, it's like, I'm not saying that it's not a good option, but you have to know your numbers. So that was the thing. At least when I worked that job, well, so I was there with like the two other accountants, and I remember seeing what they had in the bank account, and I go to one, that's it, and they're like, yeah, and I go to the other one, who was a little more experienced and an accountant. I think she was a CPA. I was like, you need to tell me, and it wasn't like I went there and I was like, you guys need to go because I need to defend my territory. It was not like that. They don't understand, and they were even like this. They said, you left the business to come here. And it's like, yeah, and they're like, I mean, essentially, they're like, well, can you go back to that one? I'm like, wait, why? They're like, this business doesn't have more than 2 weeks. So I wanted to be able to pay them whatever we owed them and get them out of there, because to me it was just extra debt. And so what I very quickly within the first 2 days knew exactly how to do that job. And so then it was about, they got rid of one of the people who didn't work there full time, but it was like she was very expensive. What was she doing? They were going through old receipts from like 2 years ago to see if they hadn't been charged, and if anything hadn't been charged on them, they were going to ask these people for money for like 2 years ago. And it's like, okay, we can do that, but you're going to kill your reputation. This county is only so big. You can't be like, yeah, we need more money 2 years after somebody had a wedding. It's not a personal person. It's not going to fly. And so it was like,
so that the Egyptian archers would be, unsure of how to react to that.
You're not going to get any money. So what? Well, immediately I was like, oh my God, I'm fucked. Why?
Herodotus himself says he actually
because business doesn't have any money and they're going to close. I've never seen a business close. Normally you don't take a job and then close the business like within weeks. But I could tell. They told me.
It's very interesting. It's not like Herodotus to lie about what he
you need to go back to wherever you came. Not like you're a bad person. No, they had a job. You just jumped into a fire. I don't know if you were in a frying pan, but you're now in a fire. And it was like, oh, you're right. Why? Well, it was like, shout out to this girl I knew named Victoria. She's really pretty.
Must have been a sizable delegation because Herodotus says that the Egyptians seized the delegation and tore them limb from limb. And pretty much at any time in history, just about anywhere you go, envoys and ambassadors and whatnot are.
Shout out to Gregor Chowski. Yeah. Is that the end of your story? No. So what? Well, I just was like, this job is not gonna last long. Now this sucks. I'm gonna be working here, and it's like, I know what I need a week. I was like, say like 1,000 shekels, and there are like 30 people here, and they have 4,000 shekels in the account. This isn't gonna work. So it's like, how do you expect to make more money? And that's the thing. They had
right after he
this
captured
strange
it.
relationship with this
The Egyptian elite to the
with
capital of Memphis.
this guy named Bob. He was like an angel investor, so to speak, but not. He's getting fucked. So Bob was Johnny Carson's bartender on the Tonight Show in those days, in Burbank and all that. The highlight of the fucking, I think the highest time of the fucking Tonight Show. This man, Robert, was his bartender, and Robert doesn't drink, but he's like the best fucking bartender in the world. But we could give him that fucking award. Why he's Johnny Carson's bartender? Does it get any bigger than that? There are guys who are like, oh, I was a bartender at Studio 54. I was a bartender at the Whiskey A Go Go. That's all cool. That's great. But you weren't like the personal bartender of it. Frank Sinatra did not have a personal bartender. Really? No, he traveled. But Johnny Carson didn't travel that much. He was always here. Everybody came here. So what? He had I mean, maybe at times Johnny Carson, Frank Sinatra had one, but he always drank the same shit too, which was Jack Daniels #7.
They cried out and wept.
So it
and
was
all
like
the other fathers,
on the
seeing their
rock.
children so degraded,
But yeah,
answered their cries and wept with their own.
so
but
pretty easy.
Samanitos,
If I know
after
his
seeing
fucking
and
drink,
recognizing his daughter,
then
only bent down in silence.
it's not that hard to be his fucking bartender, and I can make it very easily.
After the girls had gone by,
So is that the end of your story?
Cambyses
No.
sent out the
So
son of
Bob
Samanitos with 2,000 other
had-
Egyptians the same age, bound with ropes around their necks and bits in their
Money.
mouths. They were being led in this
But not a
manner
lot.
in order to pay the penalty
What did
for
I
the
say?
Egyptians'
He had properties
destruction
and
of the
something.
Middle
He made a lot of money
Memphis.
working for
And for the decision of the royal judges was that for each member of the ship's
Johnny
crew,
Carson. A lot,
10 imminent Egyptians
enough to buy some property in Orange County, which
saw them passing
over the
by
course of time
and realized
turned
that
out
his
to be a
son was
lot.
being led to his death. But while the other Egyptians seated
To
around
some
him were crying,
enough to buy
and
property
openly
and then have
expressing their
renters
anguish,
and then
he
be
made
bringing in
anxious
some
as he
money
had
on
release of his daughter.
those properties. So Bob was making money that way, and that was taking care of Bob.
The parents
But it's like,
watching.
well, why does Bob give a shit
And
about
the slavery
these
thing
people,
might not hit home until you think about
these two
it.
people?
These girls
Why
were
would he give a shit about these
dressed
owners of this
extremely
business?
scantily.
So
These are
here's what
probably
happened.
the noble women, of the
Bob
realm.
had
And
the Johnny Carson's, and this is I understand. Bob and I have never spoken really yet, but I know everything about it, from his driver's license to bank account. But why didn't you ever? Bob has a lot of, I just say, dirt on Hollywood, and I don't want to be a part of it. So yeah, I was his accountant and I handle all his books, but I don't want to have a personal relationship with him because there's like a criminal underground of Hollywood, and he's got a lot of dirt on it, and just people. So, but, in my opinion, well, so I didn't want to be connected to that. I didn't know all that at the time. I was just like, it was just like, we don't. I remember they told me, like, so this is what my day would be, and I loved it. That's the thing. I'm still his fucking accountant. I love it so much. Have you seen him? Yeah, I mean, we've been at events at the same thing. We were at a cookout that they had, and while I didn't eat at it, because keep kosher, that's like Curtis Bristol done. It's seen at it, but I remember the owners of the business were like, "You're a religious person. You don't want to get yourself into that." And okay, so little bit of noise, beat off all day. Anyway, but they were perhaps whatever the fuck it was. Anyway, so but I go to his house every day and I get his mail every day. So this is what you would do, and I really loved it. I can't say no. 3 days. Well, they told me every single day you go to this person's house and get their mail, and you pay their bills, and it was like basically on a ledger when you pay what, and it wasn't all accurate, but it was like a pretty good start. And And then what? And so like he had business that you would manage in addition to the management of this business. Now, when I saw that, it wasn't that much more work. And I remember thinking to myself, you don't have to come here every single day. He doesn't have that many bills. And so I remember telling the owners of this, so I basically was blowing the whistle on everybody, basically. You're getting stolen from here, you're getting stolen from here, it's just time thing. Like they don't need to be doing it. And here's the other thing. They used to charge for gas and mileage, and I never charged for gas. I had a hybrid car, and even though I drove every single day for them to the bank and stuff, I never charged them for gas. The only thing I charged them for at the end, very end, I charged them for mileage because that was an agreement that we had. Even though we had gas as an agreement as well, they didn't have a lot of money, and I knew how people would be with them with gas and nitpick them on shit. And it's like, no, I won't charge you on gas. Had I, some of those, I mean, that would have been much more expensive because the gas is killing that place. The gas that they would spend in fuel to go to a bunch of non-environmentally friendly trucks to drive from Orange County to San Diego County or Ventura County or San Bernardino County or Riverside County was ridiculous. So here's what killed the business. This was just I don't know how you have a fucking, I don't know how you do it, frankly. It would have to be a thing that like there'd be like an app, and actually my friend wanted to do this. She's like, the owner of the business, she's like, so you built an app? I'm like, yeah, on iOS and Google Play. I've done it on the App Store and Google Play. Basically, there are other app stores. There's the Microsoft Store, and there's like used to be a BlackBerry store. There's like an Amazon store. Those aren't anything. These are the big two, and I've done it. There's nothing else in comparison basically to that. The other shit is the same stuff. It's just clicking a button, putting up your fucking chart, putting up your file, typing your fucking description. It's all the same shit, and I've done it on both. So, she's like, well, I have an idea for an app. How much does it cost to make an app? I'm like, at a minimum at that time, it was $120,000 at a minimum. And she's like, oh, well, kids do this all the time. It's like, yeah, but to market it is not even included in that. But like, a kid can build an app, yeah, using someone else's framework. Yeah, they could do it on their own too. But can they do it to the point where it's usable to the general public? No. Really? There has never been one child who built an app on their own and published it on the App Store and made money off it. Why? You have to be 18 to publish on the App Store. So they had to have a parent at some point. So if you ever hear these fucking stories of, I mean, we used to hear them. These kids, that was the dream. Is fucking, when the App Store came out, it was like, when the iPhone came out, basically around the same time or a little thereafter, and it was like, build an app to do that. And fucking, you're gonna make $1 billion on an app. And I mean, when I moved out here, it was like, this is too good to be true. I'm gonna be an app entrepreneur, and wouldn't you know it, you fucking work hard enough at it, and you're an app entrepreneur. So then what? So I said, well, what's her idea? It's a very good idea if you could do it correctly. It's basically, you hit a button and a party comes to your house. So basically, I don't have this stuff for a party right now, but I could go and click balloons and a keg and soda and streamers and a banner and type my little banner in there and press order. And put my time. I want to have a party on Saturday night from 9 to midnight. I need to set up and take down set up at 9, take down at midnight. It's going to be 3 hours, and then I hit order. And basically, as a working person, I don't have to do anything for this party. They will set up and they will clean up and they'll take care of everything for the party, and then you just get a bill. Well, it sounds good. It's much more difficult to do. Party planning is one of the most stressful things. I mean, and wedding planning especially. And so, I mean, I've done it all. I've done accounting for it. It can be complicated. I will say this. Well, anyway. So what? Well,
the same mother
about
and the same father
being
as
Johnny
Cambyses.
Carson's
Afterwards, Cambyses
bartender.
killed Barney. When Cambyses had
So
killed Barney,
I paid his bills every single day, made sure his water was on, his power was on, all these things. And then I also made sure that all the rent that was coming in from his properties was going into his bank account. Did you ever embezzle or anything like that? No, never. And could you have? Um, to be honest with you, they had someone embezzle on that business before. That's why they had a camera here, and they were very, very cautious of everything. It's funny. You need a business to have money to be able to embezzle from it. This place never had any money, so it would be like we had $4,000. Now we have $3,800. Where did that $200? I mean, it wasn't. Did I ever think about it? Yeah, I always think about the alternative, because I was looking out for the business. What if somebody's doing this to us? Looking at from our perspective, and could I do that? And what positions? I'm always trying to look at the opposite. So yeah, I thought about it in every position. Really, absolutely. I thought about burning the business down. I thought about lighting myself on fire at the business. I think about different scenarios. I'm like an imaginary person. Not imaginary, but I'm a person with an imagination, so I think of different scenarios. Anyway, not that I would do any of them. I love that business. I pray for them as hard as you could ever pray for your former bosses. Really, yeah. And so anyway, but I went back. Well, so after leaving that business, I went back not long ago. It was like a year ago to there, and I told Asa, you're in love with this girl," and he's like, "Yeah, how the fuck did you know that?" And like, and I'm like, "Where's your mom?" She comes down, and I'm like, "You have some kind of connection to the founding of Israel." It's just like a thing I knew in my head. It's like it came to me in a dream. There's two things: that he loved this girl, and that I said, someone in your family is really, really connected to the founding of Israel. And she's like, "Yeah, my dad was a general, and like ran up against like Golda Meir or something like that. They were like rivals." And I was like, "Huh." I had no idea how I knew that. I hadn't seen them in years, and I just randomly went to their house one day and said, "You're in love with this girl, and your dad was really instrumental in the founding of Israel, and I don't know how I know this." And I was like, "That girl's Jewish." Why? I just say the rabbin told me. What's the rabbi? Anyway, so
not directly connected to the royal line will end up in the top job. How does that happen? Well, it's an interesting story. And Darius the Great carves it alongside a mountain to explain it to you. It starts off with Cambyses killing his brother and keeping it a secret.
Was that the end of your story? Oh,
reason this is important is because apparently Cambyses had no heirs.
No. So did they get rid of the other people?
So what happens?
Yeah. And how did it go? Well, I was like, it's going to be really hard to get rid of that person. And they're like, "No, we know. That's why we needed you. We needed someone on whom we could rely." And they're like, "You're not going to leave." I said, "I'll give you a year." And when I would always tell a business that, they'd always be like, "You're going to leave." And I told every business, "I'll be there at least a year." And were you? Yeah. Why? Because I told them I would do that. Because whenever I go to a business, they realize, "Oh my God, this person is a game changer." I cannot let them go. And so they're always like, "You're going to leave." And they're always worried that I'm going to ask for more money. And did you? Yep, right away. Ask for more. Ask for 1 penny more. Why? Because it was more than I was making at the other place. So in my own head, I could say I've only ever gone up for money. I've never taken a job for less money, and I've only increased. Is that true? Yeah. Would you take a job for less money? Absolutely. But by not telling anyone, as he says Cambyses didn't. The people didn't know. Why didn't you? He wasn't alive anymore. Didn't make any sense. Anyway, is that the end of your story? No, I gotta fucking sentence. Has anybody seen me? I have a bite on my fucking finger and on my leg that hurts like a motherfucker. Magician is related to that.
And I didn't realize
A momager is a word invented by
but there may be a connection.
what's that bitch?
This is a really sort of
Kris Kardashian.
story.
Just don't everybody knows she
But
invented
now
it.
it has someone who could
Momager.
be considered to
Are you a
have
momager?
potential supernatural powers involved.
One of
which
those
explains why
cameras,
all kinds
like
of stories
igers.
does. You don't know what those people
With juicy on my ass, really, and pink on my ass.
after this.
Juicy couture becomes so big. Women just start wearing juicy couture to like shul, really, with juicy on their ass. It's very expensive. It's like super comfortable. Why couldn't you wear it? It says juicy on the back. Okay, it's the name of a brand. Let's not freak out over it. Why? What's wrong? Why can't you wear juicy couture too? It's true. Why? It's not like, I mean, even for the most modest of people, it covers. It's like it's loungewear basically. It covers you, so that's no issue. But it says juicy on the ass. Okay, let's get over the fact that it says juicy on the ass. Yeah, it means your ass is juicy. If it said Nike, which people wear, people wouldn't see it as victory, like you fucked a butthole. No one would see it as that. Even though Nike's like Greek god of victory. So juicy, but it says juicy. Okay, I mean, fine. I'm not getting in the way of that. You could be as someone as I would be. This is how I would do it. Really? I'd have juicy, and then I'd put duct tape over my ass where the juicy be, and then it'd be like, okay, assholes who would be like, oh, this is juicy. I don't want you to be offended, you fucking modest fucks. But I want to be comfortable, and this shit is super ass expensive. So, but yeah, I got duct tape on it. Why? Just because duct tape is on it doesn't mean that it is cheap. It just means either something happened to it, or it's a temporary fix or something. And what would be the temporary fix? Eventually, everybody would be fine with people wearing juicy in a fucking shul, and they could rip off their fucking duct tape, and it would be no big deal. Like, oh, people have been wearing that for. My grandmother wore juicy. My bubby used to fight for women's ability to wear juicy in shul. She was one of the first people to tear off the duct tape off their juicy couture pants. And she was a gilf. She was rated gilf of 5786 of her shul. Really? Yeah. They started it at 5783. Really? Oh, I'm sorry. Gilf of this shul.
Which is, strangely similar in its own way. He says Cambyses was whittling a piece of wood with his sword, and he slipped and he cut himself on the thigh and same thing infected dies a few days later.
Hey, Conway's on.
So he died by his own hand, but
getting big during Mr. Kelly. No, getting big during this guy. Who's this guy? Mark Thompson. I'm allegedly in a fucking cemetery going, I want this guy to be the voice of fucking my Robinson's Incredible Person. And that other guy, whatever his name is, Steve Gregory. I want that guy going, Steve Gregory, KFI.
Get all the stuff of the murder victim. He's Colonel Mustard. He's a potential suspect here. And so his whole story has to be taken with a grain of salt because of what happens next. According to Darius, after
that's a smart move.
Dies,
why? People will just have that fucking frosty thing. You always get a frosty at fucking Wendy's. They're Wendy's, the small ones. Really small. Anyway. Really? Yeah. Fuck this shit. Ever go to McDonald's and be like, yeah, I'd like a small orange juice? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they come out with this new kind of size that's like, or you actually back in the day, you'd be like, yeah, I'd like a large orange juice. And they're like, okay. And it's their small cup. And it's like, no. I said large. Oh, okay. Actually, I think it was a medium. I think the large for orange juice is a medium. The medium was a small. And their small was a tiny cup. It's like, no, you assholes. It says large. Oh, yeah. We use all the same cups for everything except orange juice. It doesn't say that on the fucking menu. Anyway, I was like 6 and I was pissed off about this one. Not saying I ever drank it or ate there. I just happened to know that menu like a tattoo. Tattoo's a thing. Captain Morgan tattoo. Really? Yeah. Tattoo and Dr. Pepper becomes the drink. It's very good. Really? Yeah. Why? It's like a bunch of spices. It's like it's very smooth. Really? Yeah. Ever have anybody say I'd like a tattoo in Dr. Pepper? No. But if you do, you can thank me. I invented that bitch. Is that the end of your story? No, I love that job though. I can't say enough. Why? My life was so rigid. I would awake every day at 3:30, 3. Well, 3:30, between 3:30 and 3:33. Why? When you're getting up that early, it's like you can just choose your time. So I'd be like, well, 3:30 is early. 3:33 is though. When people would ask me like, "What time are you awake?" I'd be like, "3:30." Like that's old. Or that's early as fuck. But if you say I awake at 3:33, they're like, "Oh my god, that's early as fuck." Why 3:33? That's always their first fucking question. Why 3:33? And it's kind of like when you are awakened that early, you get to choose what. You get more reaction when people ask. You say 3:30, they're like, "Damn, that's early as fuck." You say 3:33, people say that's early as fuck, and why 3:33? Really? Why did you do that? I don't know. It's just all the fucking things are 3:33, and but usually I would end up. Actually, I would wake up at 3:29 and listen to that instrumental that like morning sonata or whatever, fucking Brahms or something. No, that's low. Anyway, whatever that. And then I'd listen to Good Day Sunshine by the Beatles, and then
they look down the courtyard, they can hear the commotion, so they arm themselves. And then after the Force 10 from Navarone commandos get rid of the units, they're running towards the stairs.
Anyway, and then that's how my fucking day would go. And then what? Then I'd have Moda Ani go on immediately. So I'd take Moda Ani, and then
again, in a scene we've seen a million times, the one principal matches the one who is the
wash my hands, and I would put on clothes. I'd go for this little run from just down the street. I couldn't go on a long run because I was, keep in mind, I was going to get to LA County all in the morning, which is ridiculous. This was a ridiculous fucking thing to take on every single day, and I did it. Oh, no. Hold on. I did do LA County. No. I did that too, but this is when I was at County. So whether I went for a run or not, I don't know if I was running then at that time. But then I would all the same stuff about 3:30, all that shit. Then what? Well, a lot of times I would be ready to go, showered and everything by like 4 or like 4:30, and not have anything to do. So I like to read the paper in the morning, or like the internet, and I would like to see what's going on in my hometown and my home's really hard. So I like to see what's going on. So I'd read like the Orange County Register and maybe what's going on in Pawnee. Then what?
And then I, with a few men, slew Kaumata matches, and the men who were his foremost followers. A fortress, Sigayavatish by name, and a district, Nasia by name,
really?
There I
so
I took the kingship.
When I originally, it was so fucking funny. I originally was there. I just started going to shul. It was funny. The week before, I'm a bet too. If you ever hear this, you fuck. I picked you guys really, really hard. I'm like the ugly duckling.
The story of how he goes from simply being one of the assassins to the one that actually gets the top job.
I'm like the Mashiach outside the gates.
Good to talk
Really?
about breakfast. It's a weird
Yeah.
story.
It's hard to
It
get in.
makes
It's
no
like
sense at all.
prison.
There's no way
Really?
anyone ever got paid
I mean, it's
to do
really
that,
nice,
right?
but it's like
So it all becomes
I've been trying to break into a
weird
prison.
how
It's very
rise ends up
difficult.
at
There are
the
like
top.
3
No one
walls,
feels
3 layers of walls.
like,
Trust me,
here's the
I thought about
problem,
this all the time
is
because I'll tell you
if
what.
don't believe
To go in there and hurt anyone? No.
Cambyses killed
No,
his
I have to go through all this. Everybody
how
goes
this
there.
entire
Their
story
security
changes
is really
from the
tight.
crime scene investigator. You approach it from that way.
But what?
What's the story here?
I was so I went to a different
Entire
school
structure
and
collapses like a house of
became very
cards.
close with the rabbi there, but they didn't have daily davening, and I wanted daily davening. I wanted the whole kit and caboodle of what the process is, and so I remember my life was really organized, and then it was like, well, I wasn't ready for this, but it was like you're ready. I had been donning tefillin on my own for a year, every day, and doing like I was really rigid in my observance, and I moved out here. Now that was one I really liked too. I had this morning routine in Long Beach that was better than this one. Time out on this one. So I'd be in Long Beach. I'd awake every morning at what time? That one wasn't as early. 5:30, and I used to awake to my own jingle on the radio, which was surreal. I would hear my own words and my own bile on the radio when I was working at this business. It was surreal. I'd awake to my own jingle. If you've ever done that, awaken to your own art, or like literally from the start of the day, you know the world is somehow affected by your art. It's really a powerful thing. But then, I mean, it was interesting, but it was like no one knew about it. My family didn't know about it, but it was very interesting. First person to ever hear one of my ads that I knew once I was my rabbi. Anyway,
he's a rebel.
My ads.
But what if he takes it after Cambyses had died?
And I say that a lot. I never owned a business. Wasn't my idea.
We cut ourselves. We died
I
2
just-
days later from gangrene.
I created the app, helped to create the app, but I was a major creator. Really, meaning, hold on. There's a founder of the business. I was not a person, and there's the person who originally wanted to make it. It was already there were already apps like this, and the on-demand car wash industry has been a thing for 100 years. Mobile car detailing has been a thing for 100 years. So this wasn't anything to bring it to make Uber car wash, but who did that? But what did I do? I was the person who created most of the app. And I can say this. Why? When I got there, it was only going to be an on-demand app. And they can say that. They would say that. And that was it. And it wasn't even finished from that perspective. So I would say, arguably, the app was maybe 40% done, then 45% done of what it became. And then I got there and I said, this is fine for on demand, but people want to schedule their washes. They're at work and they want to wash at noon on their lunchtime, or they want to lunch after work at 4 or 5. But they don't want to wait around till 5 o'clock and hit the button and then have the guy come, whether he comes or not. They want at least to be able to schedule their wash. There was wash now or wash later is what I invented for this app. And it was like, yeah, maybe people do want a wash later. And so that's what was invented, the scheduling feature. So I could say that scheduling feature was at least 60% of the app, at least. And so when I say I'm a major creator of that, I'm the first person, I guess, if I wanted to say, to create an on-demand scheduled car wash. Really? Why? There was a scheduled website. That's like autodetailing.com is one, and there's some other websites. And I'm sure they get an app and they become really big, but in autodetailing. But and I'm the king of autodetailing, really by far. Why?
was also spread throughout
Because
the
I'm the
empire.
person at the end of the day, when there would be an issue at a car wash, I'm the one who would argue on behalf of the organization through appeal, through arbitration. Nobody else argues whether your fender had a chip in it before the wash or after the wash. And they just change this in the app. This is another thing I changed the app. And it was a big loophole in the app. And I argued with the owner of the business. Really, he's short-sighted on some things. And this was one of them. He never did a before picture. It's like you want a before of your car and an after of your car. Before and after since the dawn of time. It's what it is. It's about befores and afters. And I would just say, one of before. The app was just, and he'd be like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to even know that I was that short-sighted. Really? Yeah, he figured it's a lot more data and things like that. But that's the most important part of the data that you'd want. This is what your car looked like before. This is what you look like after. Firstly, as a user, I'd be like, oh wow. And we even talked about it. It wasn't to be able to do emojis and shit on your car and upload that to Instagram and all that other shit. It's hard to do. I understand what it is from every aspect of technology. I've helped to start businesses. Really? Yeah, because I helped to start that business too. It was established, but when it really started, ask anybody there. It got serious the day that I walked in the door. Really, I came in a suit and tie every single day at some point. And not immediately. I was wearing the brand for a while, for like a week or two. But I mean, it was like, I've realized if I take this very seriously out here in California, these people will take it very seriously. And if I bring an East Coast mentality, like a traditional mindset to these people, we could get really far because California just has so many opportunities. And these people are, they need to be a good team. And it's like, here's the thing. I couldn't build a team there like I could from where I was. And I've told this to employees too, because they'd always be like, you're a really good boss, but we don't do enough like as a group. Or I remember I wasn't involved in birthday celebrations. I was so bad about this. Why? When they first would have birthday celebrations, I asked the owner of the business, they having cake or something like that? Can I at least be in there for that? And he didn't want me involved. He did not want me involved in the personal life at all of anyone in the business. So I wasn't. He didn't want people to be friends or anything like that. And so it's hard. Like from where I was, it was much more about teamwork. Everything was about the team. Really, everything. Do you like little boys or little kids? No. Do you? No. I mean, I like them as humans and children, yeah, but not like that. Really? I'm the guy who has evidence of myself screaming outside my shul. I like 45-year-old women. Really? Yeah. Why? Well, I never saw any there. Really? No, they all stayed here. Really? I'm telling you, I saw 4 women when I was there. I was there 666 days. We'll talk about that. Why? Oh my God, come on, you cunt bitch. I was... so I would walk to shul every single week and with my friends, and I would go many times to their house after, and one time we were walking to their apartment, and it's very complicated. I don't understand the whole story until it still is. There's a non-disclosure agreement that was signed, and everyone in that fucking, if anyone in the shul talks about it, they're at risk for $1 million NDA. But here's the thing: I'm gonna make $1 million look like bullshit, and these people are gonna scream about what happens when I'm done with it. Really, I don't know what happened, but they won't because they're fucking super religious. They just won't. But I'd be like, you used to fear $1 million? If I don't go there and you motherfuckers don't tell me what's going to happen, I will put every one of you $1 billion in debt.
Noble clans of Persia anyway. So the people that already were kind of the oligarchy in Persia just get their status reaffirmed. Doesn't matter which one of these scenarios, though, that explains this weird period between the end of King Pisces' reign and the beginning of the reign of a guy who doesn't seem to have any connection to the royal family, Darius. Doesn't matter which one of those scenarios you're triggered, you probably only scratch the surface of the meaning that are out there. They're all pretty darn wild, and all of them would make a good film. Personally, I think the best one is this event's version of like the Warren Commission report. The official narrative of Darius makes the best movie if you ask me. Either run this to do the screenplay, Oliver Stone to direct it, make sure there's some Lucas on. I'm in. Stuff like this that make this maybe the best coup d'etat slash assassination slash regime change conspiracy story out there. It's fantastic. Doesn't matter which one of them turns out to be true, though. By 521 BCE, the end result is this guy Darius is on the throne. He's got, maybe you could say, legitimacy test. Maybe the only thing he's lacking. It causes him problems right away. He's very open about this in this autobiographical account. Carved into the mountainside. He lists all the places that rebel against his rule. He has to fight, he says, 19 battles, a year and a half to 3 years to quell all of the uprisings. And these places in Persia that are rebelling are some of its most important provinces, larger places, right? Egypt, for example. And they're not rebelling so that they can band together and support some sort of rival claimant to the throne, because historians think there might have been a bunch of people in the empire who thought they had much of a connection to the throne as this Darius guy. It looks instead like they're all kind of going rogue at the same time, like they want their independence back. They all seem to have kings that sprout from nowhere that are claiming royal descent from the last independent line all these places had, right? And in the same way that Darius on the mountainside inscription says that Gaumata lied about being Bardi. Remember, the Persians have this thing about lying. Basically, number one on their cultural naughty list. So when he says they lied, that's pretty bad. But then he goes on to say that all of these kings in all of these provinces that have rebelled, that are claiming descent from the old royal family that used to exist there before the Persians showed up, they're all lying. Historians refer to all these kings as the liar kings. Darius would have to go from place to place to place, fighting battle after battle after battle. He would send his generals to go fight some of these battles too. Had to conquer Babylon more than once. You'll love this. One of the liar kings that pops up also claims to be Bardi. So this would be the second Bardi that shows up on the scene. This is the zombie now, other son of Cyrus that cannot be killed. But I love the way. By the way, Darius on the mountainside inscription gives the orders to his forces to go quell these rebellions. He says the same thing every time, which probably means it's ritualized in some way, but it's still wonderful, old school, ancient stuff, terminology. He says, quote, "Go forth and defeat the rebellious army which will not call itself mine." End quote. And as he captures these rebel leaders, the ones who tied themselves to the old royal family from long ago, he treats them all pretty darn badly. Sometimes they only show up in pieces. The Elamites, when they find out he's basically on the way, they kill their own independent king themselves and send body parts to Darius. That's sort of like saying, "Oh, we're sorry." But when he gets his hands on the whole liar king one at a time, he treats them like this. This involves one that rebelled in Medea and ViralRabbi, which is a Greek version of a name that's famous in Median history. So rooted in the old royal family. Darius got his hands on it. He writes on the visitor inscription on the mountainside. Darius the king says, "Afterwards, Phraortes fled with a few horsemen. There is a district in Medea, Raga by name, and there he went. After that, I sent an army in pursuit. Phraortes was seized and led to me. I cut off his nose, ears, and tongue, and I put out one of his eyes. At my gate he was kept bound, and all the people looked at him. After that, I impaled him in Ecbatana, and in the fortress at Ecbatana, I hanged the men who were his foremost followers. I executed his nobles, a total of 47. I hung their
Irish it
heads
from wine
inside
touch gift
Ecbatana for the battle
It's
of
personal
the
info.
fortress.